Carol and I were both very impressed with how much work, how much time and energy and creativity went into preparing all 12 of these projects. These were not off-the-cuff, impromptu preparations. They were very thoughtful. They represented a tremendous investment by the producers and the directors in thinking through how to explain and present their project. I had expected something more like an American pitch, which is very casual and informal. These were very thoughtfully presented. This is the first year you've done these puntos, the pitches, and some of the movies are not going to be made for another 2 years, year and a half, 2 years. So it's hard to know what the effect will be, especially since it's something new, an experiment. But I think it's a very good idea. The more we can understand, and the filmmakers can be asked to present and to clarify, what is your movie about? You know, how do you want it to be seen? What is the experience you want? All these questions that can and should be asked before a movie is photographed, you know, and that's the great strength of these pitches, I think. Too often, certainly in the American studio system, a very weak script may be green-lit to go into production because an actor is available, the only time that actor is available for the next 3 years, or a director is available, or something like that. So they go ahead and they start a movie without it being ready to shoot. I think the strength of the puntos here is that there is a thorough development of the idea and the proposal before the film is financed and put into production. You know, it's very hard to say that there is a distinctive style in any given country. The styles are really the styles of the filmmakers, the writers, the actors, the directors, editors, cinematography. I mean, I think you look at the French New Wave and you look at the difference between the films of Jean-Luc Godard, François Truffaut, Louis Malle, Chabrol. They're all within the same culture, but they're incredibly different films. They could have been made in different countries, for example. I mean, there's a big difference, say, if you look at Italy, between the films of Federico Fellini and Antonioni, you know, and it's the same culture, just, you know, at the same time. So I don't know, you know, it's, I don't think there is necessarily a distinctive national style. The one thing that I've seen in the few Turkish films that Carol and I have seen, and I wish we had seen more, is a tremendous sense of love and respect for the landscape. You know, whether it's the Bosphorus and the changing light on the Bosphorus, or whether it's, you know, the undulating hills and the soft browns and earth colors of the Anatolian steppes. You know, but the visual geography that we see in Turkish films is very beautiful. If Turkish films want to have a wider international market, I think the first thing they have to do is make sure the films are seen. You know, a lot of buyers, a lot of studios go to the different film festivals. So entering your movie and getting them accepted in film festivals is very important. In terms of direct outreach, say to the United States especially, I think it's very important that there be strong financial support from the producers or the government or whoever, so that when you send a Turkish film for consideration for the Academy, or you're looking for a distribution, that there be available screenings, that there be publicists who can talk about the movie, invite the director or the actors to meet and talk about the movie. You know, it's very important. Hollywood is run on publicity. Most of the presidents of the Academy in the last 30 years have been publicists, public relations. It's very unusual for somebody like me, an actual filmmaker, and especially a cinematographer, to be elected president of the Academy. You know, it's no accident that so many of the Academy presidents have been in public relations, because they're the ones that essentially make the films visible and seen. They sell the films. I really don't have a personal take on how this is done. You're right that Nuri Bilge Ceylan's films have won international awards at the Cannes Film Festival and other, festivals, and have not been recognized by the Academy. But the category, the International Feature Award, which used to be called Foreign Language Film, there's one film from each country. And there are usually between 80 and 90 countries that submit films. And so it's very competitive to make that short list. The problem particularly, I think, with Nuri's films is, first of all, they're very long. You know, they're usually 3 hours long. And any long film, of course, is very challenging. They're extraordinarily wonderful films. There's no doubt about that. But there needs to be publicity to let people know why they should see this film. It's long because it is very insightful and has great depth into human emotion. And that the revelation of character happens at a human scale. I mean, there are positive ways to advertise and to promote, very human Turkish films. But it's really the responsibility of the Turkish filmmakers and their producers and financiers to engage with the Hollywood system and make sure these films are seen. For instance, The Wild Pear Tree was only shown once. Unlike a lot of the other entries that have multiple screenings, it was very difficult to see this film. If you missed the one Academy official screening, you couldn't see the film. It wasn't screened anywhere else. And it didn't open in any theaters in Los Angeles in time for the voting. It opened in January, after the nominations had already been posted. So, it's the responsibility of the entity and the filmmaking producers and distributors to make sure that the Turkish films are seen in Hollywood. There's no doubt that Amazon, Hulu, Netflix, all these streaming services enable many more movies to be seen by many more people. That's the good side. The bad side is if you're a filmmaker that wants your movie to be shown with an audience in a dark room on a large screen, that's not how they're done on Netflix. So, there are good and bad points on both sides. In terms of the future of the streaming services, I don't think anybody knows. The Academy, 2 months ago, decided not to change the rules for Oscar consideration for movies because it's happening too fast. The changes are happening too fast. Netflix has bought a movie theater. They are distributing their more important films, like Roma, in multiple theaters. They're spending millions and millions of dollars to advertise and to show their movies, their prestige movies, on large screens. They're losing money on that, but it's important to them. You know, I think they realize that the best of their films, if they spend the money to put them into theaters, the word, the anticipation will be very, very strong. It's like publicity. It's, you know, it's like public relations. So that when it does go on the streaming platform, people will already be aware. The problem with all the streaming services is there is so much to see. You know, it's impossible. It's like trying to, you know, buy a book from Amazon. You know, unless you know what you want, you know, it's very hard to just browse in Amazon. You know, and the same thing's true. You know, at the same time, the major studios are now developing their own streaming services. So you have it moving both directions at the same time. You know, Netflix being involved in large screen theatrical exhibition, the studio starting small screen streaming services. So it's not a good time to know what's going to happen. It's changing all the time, and we don't know where it's going to go. Well, there's no doubt that, you know, movies intended for a large audience are getting shorter, more violent, more chaotic, more visual effects. You know, it just keeps getting more and more intense every year. I don't know what the end point is, except finally fatigue at watching all this. We're starting to see some of these superhero movies are not being successful at the box office. It's because, like, people are being hit over the head with all of this excessive excitement. I don't think any of this has any effect on what we call art house movies. I mean, those are constant, you know. It's a certain kind of filmmaking that is meant for an intelligent, thoughtful audience that considers movies to be an art form. That will always be there. For example, you know, when photography came in the middle of the 19th century, everybody said it will be the end of painting. Well, painting changed, but painting is just strong as it's ever been. You know, literature. You know, when people thought, when more and more people became post-literate, an age of television and people stopped reading, they said the novel will die. You know, no, the novel hasn't died. It, you know, people are still reading novels. Maybe it's a smaller audience, but maybe the quality of the novels that are published, you know, the important ones, are as strong as they've ever been. And I think art house movies or serious movies are as good and are as strong as they've ever been.